Hello? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Joe, is that you? Oh, it's Trump? Trump. We did it, Trump. Yeah, we did it. I can't believe it. Oh my God. We did it. I don't even believe in God, but I'm using his name in vain. Anyway, today we just found out that I'm going to see if I can find my tweet here. This is what just happened right now. World War III was canceled, but I want to remind you, according to Joel Berry, Seth Dillon, and the rest of the kosher right, World War III was never going to happen. You were imagining it the whole time, but when Trump won, he won something that never was happening. Also, I want to remind you guys, we've never been in a war with Iran. I repeat, this was never a war. But if you aren't glad about the ceasefire, which is a ceasefire to a war, you are an isolationist, an anti-Semite, a Jew hater, and you are wrong. You might even be pro-pedophile. I don't even know. But by the way, I also want to let you know, according to the same people, World War III is now canceled. But I want to remind you, it was never going to happen because we weren't in a war. Also, we won. I want to give you the phrase, Trump won, but we didn't win a war. We won a military strike contest, which is a reminder that also then technically Russia is not at war with Ukraine because it's a special military incursion, but they're actually at war, even though they have the same declaration that we had to strike Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the neoconservative right. They run this country. Hell yeah. Zionism's in power. We know everyone's in power. It seems like everybody's in power in this country except for the people. We still don't have the Epstein files. That's true. There's no arrests for the FBI agents who, categorized parents as domestic terrorists for trying to make sure their kids weren't taught radical LGBT ideology. We don't have any arrests for the agents that treated American citizens like domestic terrorists in January 6th. And we also don't have any answers about the 2020 election. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to tell you something. I have a live picture from the United States White House sent to me exclusively declaring that we won in the Middle East today. You guys can all go home. I already took off my jacket, rolled up my sleeves. Check this out. Mission accomplished. Let's go. We did it. Anyway, my name's Elijah Schaffer. You can tell I'm excited tonight. I didn't take a blue chew or anything. I'm just popped up and I'm ready to go. You know why? Because in the end, Trump is always right, and we're always going to win. However, I will tell you this. If you're not excited as I am, you're going to be disappointed tonight. We have a great guest on who's an expert in conspiracy theories, Pizzagate, and she came here to tell us they've all been solved. Again, pack up, order the Chinese food as a takeout. Plus, Braden is back in town, and my co-host is here. It's approximately 7:12 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. Welcome back to The Rift every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Let's start the show. Shout out to Qatar, ladies and gentlemen, the sponsor for tonight's show. Thank you for giving this to me. We're very, very happy to be here. My name's Elijah Schaffer. If you don't know me, I am the best, worst host on the internet. I never claim to be good at what I do, but of the ones who are bad at this, I'm pretty much at the top there. I'd like to welcome my panel today. They're amazing. They're talented. Starting, of course, for the first time here on The Rift. You'll probably see her again. She's amazing. She's talented. Tell us who you are and why you're here.
Hi, Elijah. I'm Liz Crokin. Thanks for having me. Great opener, by the way. You did it, Joe. I was like, where's he going with this? I've been an investigative journalist for over 2 decades, and I worked for the mainstream media. And when I started exposing elite pedophile rings and people like Jeffrey Epstein, I basically started getting canceled. And I also do work to combat child sex trafficking with General Flynn's America's Future, and documentaries and a lot of other good stuff, which I can talk about on the show, of course. But
oh yeah, and very based, and we're very happy. When I told you that we couldn't say too many slurs and stuff, you're like, yeah. Well, how are we going to celebrate?
I know I'm very disappointed. I can't say a couple certain words, but I'm going to try to behave tonight.
Don't worry, but you can't say the 3 words. We did it. Okay. Speaking of that, contributor here, official now. Welcome to the team. Tell us who you are, why you're here, if you're new to the show.
My name is Braden Sorbo. I am the resident Nothing Ever Happens expert in World War III, knowledge guy, and author of Embrace Masculinity. We're just here to have some fun.
Yeah, and you forgot your book today. If you want to bring your mic up, you guys might want to both bring your mics up a little closer to up there. Yeah, perfect. All right, and joining me, of course, resident producer and co-host here on the show. Tell us who you are.
Hey everybody, Michael Hennessy. I run a page snowflake_news. You can find it on Instagram as well as X. And yeah, looks like hopefully we're getting some change. We'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah, we might be getting some change. And if you say the right things today, I just want to remind you guys I have a lot of more money where this came from. So thank you very much. It's been a fantastic time there. You never know where it comes from. All right. So, okay, we just got to jump into this because, you know, we have so much recovering tonight. Plus, we're going to also revisit some of the forbidden topics. We're going to start talking about the Epstein files again, talk about Pizzagate, talk about these things that for sure to YouTube, I want to let you know, we know are untrue. We know they're false. We know they're conspiracy theories, and they're so untrue that we're not allowed to talk about them because if we do, then it could, I don't know. Again, it's always those things, right? You can't question the election 2020 until you can. You still can't talk about the 2020 event on here until you will be able to, until the class action lawsuit comes. Do you know what I mean? It's always they let you talk about this stuff when it doesn't matter anymore. But when it comes to Pizzagate and stuff, you still can't talk. They still don't want you to talk about it.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I think it's really interesting because going back to 2016, when I started talking about it, and for basically the past 9 years, they've attacked me and they've written hit pieces about me every single time, you know, I was exposing over the target with Pizzagate. But in the past year, that has shifted. And I would say it started when Joe Rogan said that he believes in Pizzagate on his Netflix special. And I've noticed recently that now all of a sudden there's a lot of people exposing Pizzagate, which I love. I think it's great. I embrace it. But I don't see the mainstream media writing hit pieces about these people that are often citing, you know, the work I've done. So it's kind of like we're at a place where you can kind of talk about it and you're not going to get a hit piece written about you. So that's where we're at, which is a step in the right direction.
Which, by the way, that would make you're one of 3 people here at the table that hasn't had a hit piece written about them in the last 72 hours. So I don't know if we'll mention it. I don't know if we'll mention it, but I'm just going to say some people come on the show and then 24 hours later they get targeted. But you know, we don't really care about hit pieces. All right, let's jump into the stories for today because if you guys know something today, Donald Trump announced that while we have not been at war with Iran and we were never at war with them, remember that's what we've been saying this whole time, there's no war, we won it. So we won the war that we were never a part of. Let me go right into this and read to you exactly what's going on here. So I don't know what's going on in this. Let me see here. Okay, cool. So if I go to my X account, here's what happened. It turns out that Donald Trump had written on Truth Social something very important here. He had said this: "Congratulations to everyone." It's really lengthy even for Trump. "It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now." Remember that number 6? It's significant, you know? Sometimes there's more zeros after it. "When Israel and Iran would have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended." So the war began and ended with this tweet. That's such a good news. "Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries," capitalized, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, capitalized, courage, capitalized, and intelligence, capitalized, to end what should be there, the SCI. Now, keep in mind that that's important. The 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, posted by none other than Benny Johnson, childhood friend. Okay, so let me get this straight. I want to go, we got to just start here. I don't know if you've been tracking the situation, but I want to give the biggest shout out to the Kosher Right for being so skilled at what I call moving the goalposts, right? These are very strong people. For the last 3 or 4 days, they have been saying only this: there's no war going on. What are you going to do when there's no war? Oh, there's no war going on. And we've been saying, why is Trump involved in another war in the Middle East? And they've been saying, you guys are insane.
Panicans.
You're panicans. You're isolationists. There's no war. So this whole time I've been saying, no, there's a war going on. We literally are involved in another war. And then apparently we just won that war today. And Trump himself said, no, this was a war. Can we at least hold these people accountable to what they've said? We'll hold our own side accountable too. We have been at war with Iran for several days in a bomb attack. To what extent, I don't think we'll ever fully know. Our media has not been honest with us. I did look at RT and Al Jazeera a little bit, and they were a little more honest to what was going on and how we've had boots on the ground in Israel. And apparently we've been having strategic missions with Israel for like a week now. I know it was about 8 days ago that Jerusalem Television stated that American fighters were over Iran, and we were denying it. Point in case, I just want to go on this point here. Do you believe we've been at war? What do you think about this? And I don't know, Trump said we ended the war. I think this puts it in stone here. We did go to war with Iran, but we won. Apparently, allegedly.
Well, I think you have to define what is war. Were we ever in World War III? I don't think so. I think that we got involved because we were trying to avoid that. But would you call that actually being in a war, or you're just taking military action to avoid that?
Trump said the war, we ended the war. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. Trump declared that there was a war that ended, and so I'm going, okay, I guess there was a war. Like, it wasn't World War III, but like, even if it's a military action, it's like, well, then that's my point, is we never went to war in Iraq either. We've never been at war in Afghanistan or in Iraq. Afghanistan we were at war. In Iraq, it was a special military incursion. Do you remember that? And we never really went to war. We just had a special military operation. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So like, maybe that's what this is. I feel like we're redefining what war is. It's a short war. There was like, remember we used to call it the 7-day war back in the day, or the 3-day like French wars. Like, we had day wars, but when you're using millions of dollars of bombs, rockets, and missiles and striking military targets and exchanging fire over multiple days, I'd consider that to be a war. It's just maybe not a world war or like a 5-year war, but we definitely took war action against Iran. And I feel like Trump is admitting that here. And can we at least just admit that Trump said the war has ended? Like, he called it a war.
I mean, I agree. I do believe that it was a war, because once you start dropping missiles on each other and you have the exchange back and forth, it does put us into that area where it is worse, two countries colliding in that nature. Do I think it was World War III? No, but in the same sense, I do think there was a possibility it could have led to that. If it continued, if the bombing persists, other countries got involved, it could have been really bad for our country. So yes, I do believe that we were at, it was a war, 12 days, whatever it may be, but we can't deny the fact that, there was something going on there as far as military action.
Can I read this to you? I really want to get your opinion on this, because I think this is important we define this, because I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just going by what Trump says right here. He wrote this: Iran has officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear. Let me zoom in actually, so that for the blind people here. Iran has officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response, which we expected and have very effectively countered. There have been 14 missiles fired, 13 were knocked down, and 1 was set free because it was headed in a non-threatening direction. I'm pleased to report that no Americans were harmed and hardly any damage was done. Most importantly, they've gotten it all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. Thank you for your attention to this. I do have a question for you guys, and I don't know because I'm not an expert at war. Can you have a ceasefire with no declaration of war? Like, can you have an official wartime ceasefire without a war? Is that a thing, or like, I don't know.
Well, as the resident World War expert here on the panel, as far as I'm aware, there has to be some sort of wartime, event to take place for a ceasefire to be called. You can't just go like I can't push my little brother and then call a ceasefire and then say, well, I didn't actually push him. I didn't do anything aggressive towards him, but I had to have called a ceasefire, which means I had to have had some sort of active aggression to begin with. But I find it really interesting how, you're going on X and you're commenting all these things like, oh man, I wish that we didn't get involved in this war. I voted for no new wars, and people are coming after you. I mean, I had it in my own comments saying, how dare you trust the plan? Don't be a panic-in. This isn't a war. Nothing's happening. All of this stuff. And then Iran, I mean, especially because we're told, well, they're chanting death to America. They hate us. Aren't you worried about the people? They have sleeper cells in America. They're already threatening to use them. We're going to get blown up. All these things are going to happen. And then Iran goes, hey, by the way, America, we're going to launch some missiles, just so you guys are aware. We're going to shoot some missiles at you, so just be ready for that. And then they do that, and they get it out of their system, and the people who chant death to America on an hourly basis are all of a sudden, they're good now. They're good. They got it away. Like, it's good. God bless them.
It's out of their yeah. Like, what does that mean? It's out of their system. I'm actually trying to understand this. Like, it's like Iran's were good now. Like they wanted to kill us before, but now they
Well,
don't?
Okay, can you pull up Trump's post again?
Yeah.
And because as a researcher and a journalist and a writer, the devil's always in the details. You always have to analyze how
You want
things
the
are
first
said.
one, original one, or
the
the
last one you just read?
Okay, here, I have it up.
Okay. So go to the bottom and okay, stop. So the line where Trump wrote, "I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice," which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Okay. So before you were talking about, well, let's define war. Were we really in a war? Were we not in a war? Let me ask you, what real war would an enemy give us early notice? Right? So it's like, were we really in a war, or was this, two countries, flexing? This was an optics thing. I think that there could have been a resolution, a deal made days ago. And we're just seeing, kabuki theater play out here because, one of the reasons why I don't like commenting on the war stuff is because what I know for a fact, as someone that works in the mainstream media and someone that has been lied about in the mainstream media, is that, well, number one, they lie to us constantly, as you said earlier, right? But the problem with wars and war zones is that, there's all these videos that come out in war zones and people allege this or that, or, like children are being burned or, hospitals are being bombed. And unless I'm there to see it, I don't feel comfortable repeating any of those videos because there's been so many videos that have been used for war propaganda that either were fake, they were old, they were doctored, perhaps AI. So how do we really know what's going on, right? But at the end of the day, why did Iran give us early notice?
Well, isn't Israel though often give early notice to Palestinians when they strike civilian targets? My understanding is they litter literature. Like I just watched a strike that the IDF posted about several days ago, and someone was like, "Why was there a camera set up?" There was a conspiracy theory, why was a camera set up exactly in 4K to show the building blown up? This has to be AI. And then an official IDF account responded and was like, "We gave like a 13-minute notice or whatever before we were going to strike with literature." So apparently they're giving notice. So maybe this is and I'm not an expert, but apparently this isn't uncommon in this current battle. But I would say Israel is at war with the Palestinian Hamas Authority. I would say
I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah, so maybe that's just a posturing thing. And I also know this too. Once a country says they're going to do something, like you said, behind the scenes, I'm sure there was okay, well then fine, do something. And if anything happens beyond our ability to counteract, then we're going to wipe you off the face of the earth. I don't think Iran or anyone wants to go to war with the U.S. I've never said it's World War III or there's something going on, but I just have an eerie feeling from this. It feels a lot like we technically won the Iraq War and we technically won Afghanistan, and it wasn't like the taking out the Iraq. The Saddam Hussein's minority political party. He was the minority, right? It wasn't the deconstruction of the military that was a big deal. It was the destabilization and the move towards regime change, which I think we're the most fearful about. I think what people are fearful about is this MAGA idea of did we even do this for American interests? Or if it's not for American interests, then maybe our interests were met right now. But are we still going to the neocons still want to destabilize and change the regime in Iran? We know that. They've made this clear. Wolfowitz back in all the way 1999, this is what they've been trying to do. So the question is that's where I'm nervous about is are we back on a boat with Bush going mission accomplished, and then we have 20 more years of tension with Iran, and eventually the regime change comes, whether it's decades or centuries.
Well, I think someone should go check on Lindsey Graham and do a welfare check to see, if he's doing okay, because he's probably, at the bar right now crying. But
which kind of bar?
If he's in DC, he'll be right at home. I was just there recently for the first time in decades, and man, it's changed.
Bar or bathhouse?
Well, Freddy's bar is the closest gay bar to the Pentagon, and so that usually sees a spike in activity.
Is that the pizza place that they always talk about that has pizza?
No. So there is
I know
the
what
pizza
you're talking-
place near the Pentagon, right? The Pizza Hut, and whenever the orders increase, it means something's going on at the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And then Freddy's, whenever the activity decreases, there means something's going on at the Pentagon.
Well, here's what he said. I love how far behind our government is. Lindsey Graham posted this. I'm headed to the Senate floor in just a few minutes to talk about the U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities and what led to this moment.
Oh my gosh, so
Mendoza
embarrassing.
is in the back there. Mike Mendoza of the MendozaReport.com. Does it surprise you that Congress is meeting after the strikes to find out what led to this moment? Because I feel like this is a propaganda machine of like, I don't think we're going to get the truth here.
Yeah, no, I think most of them probably know what's going on beforehand, but how much they're willing to divulge of that, because right now what they're doing is called manufacturing consent. So they're trying to get everyone on their side, which is why you see, and I think you know this better than anyone here, they're trying to get the public on their side. They're paying people off to support the war, to say very specific things such as peace through strength and these other types of slogans. So this whole thing that they're saying that they're just not finding out about it or they're just trying to play catch up, it's not true at all. They're trying to manufacture consent for another Iraq war, but who knows? I mean, maybe we make it a ceasefire and maybe we won.
Well, I said this, by the way, speaking of how we all know about the gay bars, I'm not going to pretend like I know what that is. No, I'm just kidding. I actually was in D.C. and I went down this street. Somehow I ended up losing my virginity. No, I'm kidding. No, but I went down the street and there was like, it was very gay. You know, there's flags everywhere. And I thought it was, I had to think
What
whether it was
street
Pride
was
Month. But it was it was just a street with normal like bars and stuff. And I was like, oh, are these gay bars? And the guy goes, no, we're just very supportive of the community.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't like a gay street. He's like, what do you mean a gay street? And I was like,
No, that's totally how it is.
yeah. I was like,
Did not
well,
used
there's
to
like
be like
flags everywhere. It was by the Pentagon. I go, there's flags everywhere. I just didn't know if there was like gay town. And he's like, what do you mean by that? I was like, in my head thinking, oh, we're in DC. Those words are the same. Gay town, DC.
that. No,
Hand in hand.
The gay bars used to be, I believe,
Hand in
in the
hand.
DuPont Circle. I lived there over 20 years ago, and they were mostly, I think, in DuPont Circle. And I lived in Adams Morgan at one point, just down the street from the White House. And back then, I don't remember there being any gay bars. And I was back there recently, and none of the bars except for one was still there, number one. And also all the bars just like gay flags everywhere. And so I assumed the same thing. I mean, I didn't ask anyone, is this a gay bar? I just assumed they were all gay bars. Like
It was like San Francisco almost. Like everyone thinks San
Worse,
Francisco's
I
less
would
gay
argue.
than DC.
yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
that crazy?
yeah.
We win a war and everyone's like, what should we? It's like a South Park episode. It's like, did you not see the joke about this, by the way? This is like actually not a joke. Look at this. This was one of my favorite stories I've ever seen. The joke about, oh, there's gay bombs. Remember that? Like now that Biden's in office, at least our bombs will have trans flags on them. You know, they'll be made by black workers. I was laughing because this is literally this. Everyone is mad at Pete Hegseth because he said, our boys in those bombers, check this out, referring to the B-2 bombers that did this raid. He goes, our boys and our bombers, Pete Hegseth slammed for sexism during Pentagon strike. I don't know why I can't scroll on this page. Let me see if I can go back here. Oh, the whole thing's locked up. All right, it doesn't matter. The point is it says he was slammed for sexism because there were female pilots. There was one female pilot that was on the plane, and he was slammed because he called them our boys, and we need to realize that there is diversity, equity, and inclusion in the, I'm not joking, in the Air Force, they said, and that those bombs were dropped, damn it, by women too. And that was
But
like a
maybe
quote.
she identifies as a boy.
This is absurd. Okay, women get to have all the kills with abortion. Can the men have bombs? Can that just be our thing? You know, like all the wars combined have killed collectively over 1 billion people, and abortion has surpassed that already in the short period of time. So women, you don't need more. Okay, stop it. Being selfish, hogging it.
Yeah, but look at this. I like how it's like, look at this. So it's like in the briefing, Hegseth, this is literally refers to B-2 pilots as our boys on those bombers, yet both men and women have trained to fly them. So it's like, it's a good thing when we're bombing your city that it's like, that's the joke. They did the South Park episode. They actually completed it. I feel like it's also crazy to me too. I think Tim Pool pointed that out. It's like, yo, we bombed Tehran. Reminding you, my family's legacy is they helped develop the B-2 bomber. My grandpa was one of the key engineers developing the stealth technology. Security One clearance. Mom was a computer programmer, helped develop aviation software. That's all I know because she wasn't allowed to tell me anything for the B-2 bomber. And I'm sure that their biggest thing they did when they were helping develop that during the Cold War was making sure that there was women and gays that could help operate the plane. And that's why they built it is, you know, so that, but it's kind of cool, right? You got these women on board, it's like, you sexist pigs, whoosh, dropping the bomb on the Ayatollah, the mullah. I don't know what the point is, but I feel like we are a complete joke where it's like, you can literally measure what our military is doing by how many gay orgies are taking place in DuPont Circle based on like the activity meter on Google of how many like people are at the gay clubs. That's it's kind of comical, right?
Or actually, in Congress itself, there was that staffer, under the Biden administration that literally had sex in Congress. So,
Oh, that guy who filmed it. I forgot about him.
yeah.
Oh, man. That's
Someone in the chat said Elijah looks to have started in gay porn in the 80s with his mustache. Thank you. It's a good comment. A couple of things on this. So I mean, I know that like, I think I wrote this, by the way. This is actually kind of great. It said, it appears that we have been not in a nonstop non-war in the Middle East since 2001. I'm not even saying there's anything close to World War III or even a regional war. I'm saying that this conflict won't stop until Israel gets what they want. The greater Israel could be decades or centuries. And of course, just today, because of my opinion on this war, we had another group of people who are Zionists who were trying to ruin my life and ruin my work relationships. I know other people at this table have also had that issue as well. It's an unfortunate thing that people can't have opinions on war without problems. Before we go any further, though, I want to remind you guys about something very important. Just so you guys know, we have a special offer for you guys with this product that we have called Man's Edge. Now, because we're talking about edging, we're talking about gay clubs, so let's talk about Man's Edge. This is a good kind of Man's Edge. This is the kind of one, if you're straight, you should take it. The reason why is actually, even if you're not straight, it probably will help you too. This is one of the best ways to help naturally increase your testosterone levels. Now, testosterone is super important for several reasons. Number one, just because you look manly or you talk like a man, we call that male-to-male transsexuality today. We have a lot of men who look like men, but they don't act like men, right? And so a lot of people out there, you might find yourself, you're not bold, you're not standing up for what's right, and also sexually, your libido's down, you can't please a woman, go multiple rounds, maybe you have problems with getting hard, and even bigger, maybe your grip strength. The average 18-year-old's grip strength, which is crazy, is less powerful today than a 60-year-old man in the 1950s. That's not a joke due to testosterone levels. So this is a real serious problem. Men need to protect, provide, and perform, and you can't do any with low T. Well, you can take these ingredients, fenugreek, IGF, NO2 orally, but they degrade in your stomach and they don't absorb well. The only way to actually take these is to inject them or to do it under the tongue in a sublingual liquid. Now, this is a patented American delivery system, carbon-based, that allows 98% absorption and up to 46% increased in natural testosterone and free testosterone in your body. Right now, when you choose auto ship, it is buy one, get one free using our promo code Elijah at ElijahIGF1.com. That's ELIJAH. IGF, the number 1.com, promo code Elijah. Plus, you get 10% off, which means that you get 2 bottles for the price of one, and they actually are, it's at cost. The only reason why they're doing it is because they have said basically nobody cancels and they continue to order this stuff. Some of you guys have also used it, so have I. It works pretty damn well. So check it out today at ElijahIGF1.com, ELIJAH, IGF, number 1.com. Promo code Elijah to get your testosterone up. I wanted to bring something up from the article here. So that's whatever that is, okay? Fine, we don't really need to talk about that. But the United States talked about the fact that our bases were attacked. Let's get a final, not a final summary, but I am interested to find out. So we didn't decide. Were we in a war or were we not in a war? Did we win a war? Because Trump said we just won a war, or is he just being Trump and being hyperbolic? That's kind of what I want to decide tonight. Were we in a war and is Trump being honest, or is this just a Trumpianism? We're like, we won the war, it was the biggest war in the world, and it was just a military strike. What do you think?
I'll say that Trump was being a little Trump. I don't really think we were in a war. I think we prevented a war, and he took military action to stop it. And I think that we're going to be good, for a minute at least. And I think everyone should just kind of calm down now.
Okay, what do you think?
I think in order to have a ceasefire, there has to be some form of hostility that was going on, some kind of attack. So that does kind of make me feel that it leans more towards war. I'm hoping that, now with this all said and done, we've pulled away from that. But who knows, when Israel gets upset again, they might just decide to go bomb them again, and then we'll clean up the mess. So we'll see.
What do you think?
I think nothing ever happens. Is the ultimate moral of the story is that
nothing ever happened, or did it happen? That's
nothing
another
ever
question.
happens. Yeah, I think people online were just generally restarted in the sense that they didn't actually take anything into account other than what they were told by the talking heads and the political pundits. And so when we have this mentality of not being able to think for ourselves or think critically, it just proves that most people don't deserve to have, rights, like that their vote counts the same as ours. Is crazy to me. But moral of the story is, I would say, because of the aggression, there was a war. our involvement in it can be debated, but personally, yeah, we got involved in a war. We bombed a country. That is an act of war.
Okay, so let me ask you guys a real question here. In the chat, one's in the chat if you think that there was an actual war, two in the chat if you think that it wasn't. I just thought it was important that we actually define that. Don't forget also too, I'm putting in the link. We have a brand new YouTube channel. Make sure that you, if you're on Rumble, follow the new YouTube channel. I just posted it, and I'm gonna go ahead and pin the comment. It's brand new. It's about to be. We're really happy. It's been growing. I just clicked on it. It's about to grow a lot. I think we just started about 10 days ago, 11 days ago. And it's almost at 4,000 subs in just like 11 days. You guys are watching the video. We had our first episode at 20,000 views. This is really crazy with such a small channel. Thank you guys for supporting it. I appreciate you guys. Again, the YouTube channel is pinned. Make sure you follow the new channel. Also, we have a super chat. Bloodshot567 said, "Where's the Iberian Queen Anna?" Anna will be back. She will also be guest hosting the show. I'll be gone to Australia for a week in July, so she'll be guest hosting as well. Braden will be around, so we appreciate it. But I wanted to talk about something that I think is really deep here. So I feel like people use names to control people. Like we've been seeing this a lot. You know, during 2020, you were a science denier, right? You weren't a skeptic. You weren't. Like me, I have an actual degree in like molecular biology and genetic engineering. So apparently I was a science denier, even though I actually have credentials. And all of a sudden, my sister became an expert, and I was idiotic, even though I think she learned what the scientific method was that week. However, going forward, I mean, you go back even in 2016, we were all Nazis. Remember that if you supported Trump. More broadly, you get called a conspiracy theorist for saying that there were pedophile rings that were going on around the country. And one thing that I think was kind of crazy was that during this argument about Iran, anyone who was against the war was called an anti-Semite. And, to talk about the racial issues, and I shared some, like, if you were against the war, you were anti-Semitic. In fact, somebody just tried to ruin a very important work relationship and even messaged me and said, "You're a Jew hater." And I go, I never said anything against the Jews. I never said anything. I mentioned a government. I mentioned Netanyahu. I mentioned Zionists. I never mentioned Jewish people. In fact, not all Jewish people are Zionists. So that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And most Zionists are not Jewish. They're like evangelical Christians. So please save me your point. However, Mark Levin, who was the biggest proponent of pushing this not war, unfortunately kind of said something that I think we need to bring light to, which I think, because we want to, Mike Mendoza knows we've been wanting to fight hate on this show for a long time, right? Yes, you know that? He said we need to start fighting hate.
It's my main concern.
Yeah. Keeps him up at night.
No, okay, so this white guy named Casey Allen, he's a Caucasian, I looked him up. He kind of said a comment to Mark Levin. So Mark Levin said, "Marjorie Taylor Greene, shameless nitwit. How incredibly dumb is Marjorie Taylor Greene? She doesn't know anyone in America who has been a victim of crime or killed by Iran. You mean the thousands of American, especially military personnel, killed and maimed by the Iranian blah, 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 goes down." Now, I don't know if I agree with this comment, but Casey Allen, gave a smart aleck comment and said, "People like you make anti-Semitism increase," and ratioed him. And Mark Levin said something that unfortunately is a deep-seated held idea in a lot of communities. But they believe, this is this anti-white racism, that racism is in our DNA. And I believe there are certain, just like a lot of modern DEI and intersectional communist teachings teach that racism is born into white people, that we are naturally racist, that even if we have unrealized racism, that we have to acknowledge it. He made this claim that is actually very common in his community, that like white people, or that what tribe is it? Amalek, or what are we again? We're
I actually forget. I think Amalek is Arabs.
the Arabs, right?
Amalek is
Yeah.
Arabs. What are the? I forgot. It'll come to me.
I don't know why I'm blanking either. But they have this phrase the rabbis teach, that like we are
Edom.
Yeah, Adam. Yeah.
Edomites.
So that we are born with Jew hatred. That it is bred into us, and it is taught in certain sects of rabbinic teaching that we are born in it. And it seems like Levin, holds that, because he's telling this guy that it's in your DNA. It's your anti-Semitism is built into you. He's a very wealthy person, very powerful. I used to work with him. I've been on his show. I think he's a very smart guy. I think that's a very dangerous statement, and I feel like I feel like that we got to be careful in these day and age when we're throwing that thing around. When you're coming out and you want America to fight these wars for Israel, but then you tell the founding stock of America that they are naturally anti-Semitic, I think Mark Levin needs to apologize for that or clarify, because to me, that's a very dangerous statement. I mean, maybe you don't think it's a big deal, but as someone who knows him, I feel like he needs to come out and just explain that he was being hyperbolic or being, dicking around and not being honest. Because accusing white people of being inherently racist is one of the main things that I fight against. Is this demonization? I don't know what you think about it.
Did he post that today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think he's been a little off the rails for a while, and every once in a while, I'll tune into a show on Fox, and I have to turn it off. It just gives me a headache. And he seems to have more loyalty to Israel than America, and that's his choice. But he just seems to be in the category where, if you say anything that's critical of Israel, then you're an anti-Semite, which is ridiculous, And I think that when it comes to, specifically Israel and Iran, it's not black and white. And, I've gotten that a little bit too, because I exposed Jeffrey Epstein in his ring. And I have been accused for being anti-Semitic because Jeffrey Epstein claims to be Jewish, which, by the way, I don't even believe. I believe he worships Satan, and so does Ghislaine Maxwell. But, it's really interesting because I expose pedophilia in all religions. Islam, the Catholic Church, all the time. Like, I don't discriminate. I don't care what religion you claim to be. If you're hurting children, I'm going to expose you. And so when I expose it with other religions, I don't get accused of being like anti-Catholic or, it's only, when I do it with people that claim to be Jewish, like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. So yeah, I think that's ridiculous for him to say that. And
Can I ask you a question though too here? I think people also don't realize that there's an argument here about what it means to be Jewish. And I think, I've been told that I'm wrong on this, and I've been told by people that I'm correct on this, but I think that there's a Jewish religion, and you can be religious by religiously Jewish, but I also think there's an ethnic identity or enclave, even we would call it a cultural identity of being Jewish. There are atheistic Jews, there are non-practicing Jews, there are people, and that you're still Jewish. Just because, I had someone today say, I'm not Jewish, and I go, I know what you mean. You're not religiously Jewish, but ethnically you might be. Just like I'm not German. My nationality is not German, and I am not. I wouldn't call myself a Caucasoid. But it's like, but if you were to ask me, my identity, if you want to, get all, technical, there's still this identity. I think that sometimes, people think that, when you're just talking about people who are religiously Jewish, think you're attacking the whole people with the ethnic background and vice versa. And I don't know. I feel like, do you think it's both? Do you think it's one or the other?
Well, I think that, there's different sects of Judaism, and then, there's Orthodox Jews, and there's cults related to Judaism, just like there is with Christianity. So again, it's not black and white, but in terms of the people that I expose, like Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, I don't believe that these people believe that they're Jewish. I think that they use that as a front, just like, the priests that rape children at the Catholic Church do. They're not really believers in Jesus Christ. They're just using that as a front to commit crimes against children and do other nefarious activities. And that happens actually in every religion. And, one thing that no one's talking about right now, which I find absolutely stunning, is that in April, there was a major investigative piece that came out about how there are elites in Israel that are involved in not just trafficking children and not just raping children, but like committing satanic ritualistic abuse against children. And I don't know if you heard about this, but there was a hearing at the Knesset in Israel earlier this month where a bunch of survivors testified about the abuse they endured years ago. And they said that so the Knesset would be their Congress, right? They said that there are current members of the Knesset, so current politicians in Israel who are part of this pedophile ring who have harmed children. So this is a bombshell story. That would literally be like if a bunch of survivors testified at Capitol Hill in front of our members of Congress and said, hey, we were victims of an elite pedophile ring. And by the way, there are current members of Congress who hurt us that are still in office.
Yeah.
How is that
Why
not
not
a
media
big...
cover that?
Well, I actually just finished a piece on it, which should come out tomorrow for America's Future.
DM it to me so I'll share
I
it tomorrow.
will.
Yeah.
But this is huge. Look, I'm not discriminating against Israel. You know, like I said, I have another piece coming out that's exposing the sexual abuse and sex trafficking that's been going on in Ireland in the same newsletter tomorrow, right? And that's within the Catholic Church. But like, this is a really big deal. They testified, like, you know, in front of their whole government that there's current high profile politicians in office that committed crimes against children. And, you know, the police have come out and made a statement, and they said they're investigating it. They're taking it very seriously. And like, some of these women were not anonymous. They showed their faces. They weren't Jane Does. And a lot of these women didn't even know each other. And a lot of them cited the same rabbis, like, in their testimonies before they met the other victims. And this has been going on for a very long time. And they also said that whenever they filed police reports, it was thrown out or was covered up. And one victim said that she even got a recording of one of the abusers to admit that they were part of this ring and that, yes, they did abuse her as a child. And the police didn't even interview that person. And so, like, this is a huge story, and like, crickets from the mainstream media. No one's talking about it. And, you know, when I saw one piece on it, you know, days ago, and I was like, what's this? But I had to dig to get more information on it. And it's just like, you know, I mean, if that happened at our Capitol Hill, like, maybe there'd be some censorship, right? But there'd be some outlets that would cover it. And so, I don't know, I just find it really interesting. And it's a really positive development too, because there are a lot of people, like, in the Knesset that are actually working to expose this in Israel. So this is a huge story. It's a really big deal. I think it's great that it's being exposed. And I think it's great that there are people in Israel working to expose this and to combat it. And it should be talked about.
I think it's interesting. I do. I think it's interesting because you brought up, you know, the Catholic Church, plenty of Protestant pastors as well. And I would like to say that it's really interesting, especially because within the Catholic Church and Christianity as a whole, you were mentioning people using it as a religious front. Like, oh, well, I'm, you know, I like little boys, so I'm just going to go become a priest because I have easy access to children, right? And so that's totally it. And the difference that I will say for a lot of people watching or listening, or, you know, is the fact that Christianity fully condemns this type of behavior, whereas other religions, not all, but other religions don't necessarily. It's almost like expected, or it's just okayed, where it's like, and so it's super interesting. And I will say, this is one of the things, I know a lot of people didn't like Pope Francis. This is one of the things he did a great job on, was a reformation within the church to stop this abuse. I mean, the yearly average of clergy abuse cases in the United States dropped below 500. 500, right? Whereas there's like 30,000, I think it's 29,000 documented cases of sexual abuse happening to children within public school systems. And so everyone likes to point to the Catholic Church, but it's like, this is the one institution, I mean, obviously Protestant and Orthodox churches as well, but Christianity is the institution that says, no, this is not okay. And yet there are going to be bad people that do it, but we don't condone it. Whereas other cultures say, well, it's fine. And so, yes, it's going to happen more because people are more accepting of it. And so it doesn't matter if you interview.
It happens in the home too.
Exactly.
I think people get demonized, by the way, on this topic, and I want to get into it in a little bit, but I want to remind you guys as we're talking about this, please remember that we really appreciate you guys, you know, watching, supporting. Don't forget to follow us right now. Hit the follow button, like the video. We're trying to get monetized on YouTube, so more of you guys that click over there and follow and support. And then also, don't forget to follow our guest. So that's really important. Follow Liz. Go check her out. She's amazing. And look for her article tomorrow. So just remember to actively watch and share these links with your friends and family. As we talk about that, I want to remind you, we're not monetized, so we do rely on sponsorships. And as we get into this topic, talking about some of the failures, what happened with Epstein, what's going on with these pedophile rings, what's really going on with Pizzagate. You know, part of the reason why we're able to talk about topics other people shy away from is because we have really, really good sponsors, and you guys love the products. One of those companies is Van Man. You got to understand, this company is like no other when it comes to products you use every day. You know, my family's moving tomorrow. I know, it's crazy. 2 kids under 2. and still breastfeeding one and got to move and still do the show tomorrow and everything. And, life is stressful and you don't want to think about all these products you got to use. Well, what if I told you there's a moisturizer you can use on your lips, on your face? If you're a guy or you're a girl, you can use it when you're breastfeeding. Your children can use it. It can help with diaper rash. Yeah, I'm talking about the Beef Tallow Balm with essential oils and with honey from Van Man. This stuff is amazing. Essentially what this does is can help you in all, they say black don't crack, but white do. But everybody cracks. Okay, I'm not joking. You get old. And, for me, I'm not going to do Botox. Maybe you will. You could do preventative things by keeping your skin moisturized and protected. And also you go, oh, but Elijah, don't cracks come from the sun? Yeah. Well, you can also get their sunscreen, which is like pure zinc and some other like natural ingredients. So these are clinically proven ingredients that they're not carcinogens like in the Johnson & Johnson and Bayer stuff. You ever notice that there's never sunscreen's never locked up in the store?
What's up with that?
It's never stolen. It's an interesting point. No one ever steals sunscreen. However, sunscreen isn't good for you, so you shouldn't be getting it at the store anyways. Make sure that you actually get really, really good products. Plus, they have deodorant without the harmful aluminum. They also have toothpaste without fluoride. Everything that you could use, and it's also in nice like metal. Everything's in metal and glass, so no microplastics. It's an amazing company, and you can get 10% off all their products right now with my code Elijah at vanman.shop/ELIJAH. That's vanman.shop/ELIJAH. Check it out today. All right, I have my guest today. You can follow her in the topics in the description. We're gonna kind of switch to a special topic here, which is we're gonna be covering some culture stuff. The Iran was a lot of like 3 different stories in one, but let's talk about this. What's going on here with human trafficking? Are things getting better under Trump? Did we bomb Iran because Trump is on the Epstein files, as some people claimed, right, or suggested, including myself, which was kind of more being facetious, but still. No, I'm just saying, like, hey, who knows what's going on out there? You never know, right? We got to talk about this anyway. Let's get into what's going on in the culture. Let's talk about it. All right, speaking of this, what's going on right now, Red Pill USA pointed this out. Dan Bongino just recently suggested that Epstein was an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East. We do know about this recently. He said, obviously, I don't know which country, though. It could be our greatest ally. Would it not be? Remember this clip?
About a year and a half after that, I'm in a green room at Fox, and I'm not going to say who because they didn't give me permission to share it, but the short story, but not who they are. It says, Epstein's an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, you sure of that? The person, let's say, is like, I'm absolutely sure of that. That he's either a witting or unwitting asset, intelligence asset, meaning his plane and that island, the cameras, there's a big assumption out there that these videotapes were exclusively in the custody of Epstein. That's a huge mistake. The reason they wanted this story to go away is because there's an assumption like, oh yeah, Epstein had him. No, he wasn't the only one who had him, according to this source. These assets, that's why this blackmail story makes so much sense. Which Middle Eastern countries they are, I don't know. But this person, who's a very, very good reporter, I mean, aces, right? Swore Epstein was either a witting or unwitting intelligence asset, and they may have had his plane wired up, and they're the ones who have all this stuff. So the point is, to sum it up, how do you know some of these countries aren't going to some of these power players who aren't making decisions? Because, hey, you wouldn't want this video out there, right? How do you know?
100%.
I mean,
Let's get
All right, let's talk about this. So,
The interesting about the videos too is because you have Pam Bondi, who recently was recorded undercover. They had like a little thing that they had with her.
Oh, yeah.
And she was talking about how there's like tens and thousands of videos that that they have to comb through, and there's so much stuff they have to go through. And then you have Kash Patel come on, I think it was like Joe Rogan or something. And the second he goes on Joe Rogan, he's like, oh, there's no videos of people with children. There's nothing like that.
Okay,
So-
wait, hold on. So this is another the devil's in the details moment. So I look back and analyze exactly what she said and how she said that and what Kash said. And what she said is there was tens of thousands of videos with Epstein, and that's it, committing crimes against
So you
children.
think it's only Epstein in the videos, that there's no other...
What she said is that the videos that they currently have, though, they only involve Epstein. She did not say that they involve the co-conspirators. So then Kash was asked if they had videos of Epstein with his co-conspirators, and he said no, and then strongly implied that they could have been all destroyed. So that's what that was. So, if you look at exactly how they say it, they weren't actually in contradiction.
Because I was going to ask that question, because I know a lot of people online, we're sort of getting to the stage where our mindset is they probably don't have anything anymore. And so they're leading us along with, oh, well, it might happen, it might not happen. But if they really had the stuff, the hope is that they would have just released it. So what do you think? Do they have it or no?
Well, I don't think that they've lost necessarily everything, and maybe the FBI doesn't have it. What we do know is that when the New York home was raided, they gave Epstein's people a couple days before they handed over the tape. So, hello. So, who knows if the FBI even got the blackmail tapes? Maybe they just got the tapes, that implicated Epstein in that raid, right? Now, when the raid happened in his Palm Beach Island home, there was reportedly a man that was handed over the actual blackmail tapes of the co-conspirators, and no one talks about this, but he was reportedly handed the blackmail tapes of some of the co-conspirators and or clients, right? And the reason why he was handed this from one of the Palm Beach police officers or deputy sheriff, something like that, is because they believed that this whole thing was going to get covered up. This guy reportedly, allegedly, took the tapes and then fled to Russia. And where my mind is going is if he has the tapes and is taking them because he believes that this is going to be covered up and he flees to Russia, I wouldn't be surprised if Russia's intelligence now has those tapes as well.
That wouldn't be good.
No.
Well, it depends on what your opinion of Putin is. But also, I do believe that there are other agencies in our government that would for sure have at least some of those tapes, the NSA, the CIA, and then, of course, Mossad, right? So maybe the FBI doesn't have any of them. Maybe Pam was telling the truth, but I do believe that there's tapes. And I do believe there probably were copies, and there could be other individuals that have these tapes, So I don't think that all hope is lost. I think that the evidence is still there. I think multiple countries have the tapes. I think that multiple intelligence agencies have the tapes. And I think there's individuals like this guy that was allegedly handed the tapes from someone that worked from the Palm Beach, police department. And this was years ago. So I do believe the evidence is still there, at least enough to take down many of the
but what
co-conspirators'
evidence?
clients.
Because why
the tapes would be pretty big evidence.
Yeah, so are we talking about actual penetrative action with minors? Is that what the tapes are?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's another thing that the mainstream media downplays is that when Jeffrey Epstein got arrested, if you watch any of the documentaries, the mainstream ones on Jeffrey Epstein, they make it appear that Jeffrey Epstein, was sex trafficking and or raping, barely legal teenagers. And that is true, but they leave out a lot of the story. And a lot of the story is that he was also raping children, and so were the clients and co-conspirators. They don't talk about the younger victims, the younger survivors, right? And there was so much more going on in the island, but it wasn't just that. And then, of course, it was a blackmail operation. Like the bigger part of the operation, of the sex trafficking operation, was blackmail, just like in the same hallmarks of Diddy's ring. That was ultimately a blackmail operation as well. And so, so it was a blackmail operation. And Jeffrey Epstein used to brag to people, his friends, that, that he was running a blackmail operation. And when he got Prince Andrew, he's like, this is the Super Bowl trophy. Like, this is the biggest win to get someone like Prince Andrew blackmailed. And, this was years ago. And as we all know now, like Prince Andrew clearly was involved. So.
Well, this is what I want to ask you, though, because you said it could be good or bad, depending on what you think of Putin. I have good opinions of Putin comparatively. If you look at in comparison to our own government, I would say, at least he seems to somewhat care about preserving his own culture. So while I also think maybe he's a little more blatant in his censorship, and he's a little more blatant outright in the way that he would just, use the government to restrict people. And kill people too, by the way. My neighbor's dad was killed by Putin. That's why they're here. So, I mean, I'm not claiming he's some sort of Nobel Peace Prize winner. That's Obama, right? He didn't start enough wars to become that. But I would say the ability for our politicians and people to be blackmailed is what does bother me, because I never had any issues like that where people try to blackmail me, but I had people in the past, be like, well, I'm going to tell people this publicly. If you don't, basically you need to just like step out of the scene. And they were mad about, my views on women, my views on what was going on with Israel at my old company. And I just said, go ahead and tell the public. And then they did. They're like, all right, here's this guy and whatever. And I was like, cool. It didn't do anything to me. Some people got mad for a couple of weeks, talked shit on me. And I just was like, took it on the chin and just went through it. I was like, it's not illegal. You're not accusing me of doing anything illegal. However, if I had done something illegal, I could see how that could control you, because that would be terrifying. If somebody called you and was like, having some gossip about you or some rumor is one thing. A legal activity is another. And I mean, if you're in the media and someone hasn't accused you of illegal activity, then you're not really in the media, right? But to actually have done it and it be on tape, I mean, that would ruin your entire life. And I want to ask you then about this. This is what's actually insane. Viva Frey, who's a lawyer here, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Viva. He comes on the show pretty often. And he said this, I don't want to single out any one reply in particular, but anyone who accuses someone of anti-Semitism for believing there might be an Israeli intelligence Mossad connection to Epstein is being obtuse. Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine's father, was long suspected of having ties to Israeli intelligence. High-ranking members of Mossad attended his funeral. Jeffrey Epstein had a close relationship with Ehud Barak. Ehud met with Epstein multiple times, even after Epstein was known trafficker, solicitor of prostitution of minors. Yes, it's a theory, and it's a theory you may disagree with. You may not choose to connect certain dots, but to ignore them is disingenuous. Yes, he probably had ties to all intelligence, since the operating theory is Epstein was operating a blackmail extortion ring. If your support for anti-Semitism is that focusing on the Israeli connection, but not CIA or MI6, okay, so you agree with the dot, you just want someone to connect all or none. Either way, it's not anti-Semitic to make the connection, argue the theory, or sincerely believe it, and anyone making that accusation of anti-Semitism should do 15 minutes of the most rudimentary Google searches, and you will be shocked. I gave you the first rabbit holes. Israel gives Maxwell farewell fit for hero, as well as, the rest of the documents. I see a lot of people downplaying, like you mentioned, a lot, like we can criticize anyone. And I mentioned this, I used to say at my old network, I hate British people. The British, I hate them. And no one ever bats an eye. You say, those Italians are annoying. Americans are this. But if you single out this one group of people, everyone not only accuses you of being a bad person, they try to ruin your entire life. And also, if you try to connect this nation to anything, people try to downplay it as well and say that you're anti-Semitic. Viva's Jewish, so I think that's why they were accusing him of being anti-Semitic. It doesn't make sense. Do you think, like Charlie Kirk said, that, we have no idea what Middle Eastern country it was? Maybe it's Iran. Maybe we're bombing Iran because they were running an extortion ring. Do you think that there's credible evidence, though, that this is being run by Mossad?
When did he say that,
Charlie Kirk said, what nation did he say? Could have been Cuba or something like that. What did he say?
It's in there.
Wait,
Wait,
are
it
you
is?
serious?
Let me see. Wait, let me.
Because there was Dan Bongino saying,
Where is it?
"Oh, it's a nation in the Middle East."
Let me go down.
Well, you're looking for it. There was
Right here.
another
Here it
post-
is.
Oh,
We have it. We have it. There's the video. Is this not what it? Oh, okay. Well, he said there is enough evidence to conclude. Okay. He said there's not enough evidence to claim he was working for Mossad rather than the Saudis. So he said it could have been Saudi Arabia.
When was this?
I remember this was at one of his college.
This is a while.
No, this is this year.
April
a couple months
2015.
ago.
this
Year.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah, this was like
Yeah,
this
was
year.
I mean, come on. Like, there's been people have gone on the record, like former Mossad agents. There's been whole books written about how Robert Maxwell was working for Mossad.
Yeah, we have some Mossad videos in there,
like
too.
for him, like that's crazy to me that he would say that at this point in time in the
there
game.
was-
But okay.
There was that one comedian, I can't remember her name, but she said, if you're dumb enough to get caught on videotape with a kid and used for a Mossad blackmail ring, you shouldn't be in office or something like that. And then a guy commented underneath, an elected official, and said, why are you being so anti-Semitic?
Really,
It was
I
like,
didn't
that's
see
such
that
an odd thing to say. Why would you say that, right? That's so weird. But it kind of goes back to the Mark Levin thing too, where it's just like, oh, well, it's in your DNA. The second you say something that's wrong, it's just because you're inherently this, that, or the other
That's
thing. And
just
they're going to
using
try
words
to
of control.
they're going to try to ruin your
Yep.
life for it, which, by the way, has terrible ramifications if that is applied. Like,
Would you know?
globally.
Do you know that if you say anything, that they'll write hit articles about you and they try to destroy all your business relationships? You know about that?
I did know that, actually. What an odd thing to say, right? I mean, it's purely
Hey, both you and I in 24 hours had attacks, some organized trickery. I'm not going to go into the full details because both him and I are under NDAs. But it's like there were actual well-known and established people who came in and tried to destroy both of our business relationships with strategic key partners that are tied to our influence based on our very fair opinion on this Iran war and not, being in support of it and being open about, the way these people manipulate and warmonger. These are completely isolated and separate events too. And of course, what did they come down to? They come to accuse us that we hate Jews, right? When there was never any mention of that at all. And I think that it's weird to me. Do you not find it weird that anytime, and I found this on large podcasts too, whenever I bring up this stuff anywhere else, I'm accused of hatred of an ethnic group of people or a religious group of people, which I find to be somewhat funny because it's like, well, that's how you would make people hate people, is if you constantly didn't let them criticize somebody and you call them mean names for any type of basic criticism, you're going to create actual hate, right? And I think that Ian Carroll brought this up on Joe Rogan. This stuff's mainstream now, right?
Yeah.
Listen to this.
All the information that's getting disclosed, supposedly this administration, what do you have the least faith that we're going to come to
Epstein,
a conclusion?
for sure.
Epstein.
And I think it's because of Israel. I think when you really dig into Epstein, his entire network was Israel. It was clearly Ehud Barak was the ex-prime minister and the ex-head of Israeli intelligence. Leslie Wexner was one of the most powerful pro-Israeli philanthropists. The whole organization was Israel.
So
and I'm not saying it was all of Israel.
It was all an intelligence gathering, and
it was targeting Americans. It was targeting American officials and the American president.
Right. And what's interesting is
party.
You can talk about this now, post October 7th.
It opened wide open.
Post Gaza.
You want to know a funny story, actually? I didn't know shit about it. And I started doing 9/11 stuff. And I was doing a 9/11 video on my YouTube. And I knew about the Dancing Israeli conspiracy theory that is very much a real set of documents. And I knew that I'm not allowed to talk about Israel for some reason. And I didn't really know why. And I realized, I better fucking understand this thing before I crater my new channel and career on this topic I don't understand. If I'm going to take a stance against Israel at all, I should understand why and how and everything. So I started doing research.
The thing is, Israel is connected to one race of people.
Yeah.
It's correct. Whereas the United States, which also is involved in a lot of really fucked up things all over the world. When people think about the United States, they don't think about it as one.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it just puts us all in this impossible situation, and it's it's an impossible conversation.
Okay, so my point is that this is not. The point I actually wanted to say about this was that when he said you can talk about this post October 7th, why could you not talk about this when the Epstein stuff was coming out? Why was this not the discussion then, and why is it okay now? I don't understand what he meant by that. Why did that make that okay?
I don't understand either. And you'd have to ask him that, but does he know something we don't know? Were people activated? Were certain strings cut? What I do know is that no one in the mainstream media was not allowed to talk about Pizzagate for almost 9 years now. Now, why is that? And if you did, you got fired. I got fired from multiple jobs.
What happened there? Because by the way, I want to know this. Please explain to me, because in order to understand, for majority of our viewers are 18 to 25 years old on this show.
Okay.
They're really young.
Yeah.
And a lot of them just got into the political world, and you get in and they think the whole world they'll just know maybe Nick Fuentes and think that he's the only person that's talking about certain things, which he's a really brave guy and I respect him a lot. But then they don't even know you go back even to Buchanan or before and before and before, and you can go back to Nixon, and you're going, people were talking about Israeli influence and spies. Listen to Nixon from the 60s talking on hot tape.
Right.
Yeah, JFK. You go, oh, this is not a new thing. No. So when it comes to this cancel culture stuff, this threatening people don't even know what Pizzagate is. And how the hell you get fired for just talking about a topic? What happened?
Right. So basically what Pizzagate is John Podesta's emails were released via WikiLeaks in 2016. John Podesta was the campaign chairman for Hillary Clinton. Now, in these emails that were released, they were using confirmed pedophile code words in a context that does not apply to food. And one of the main code words was the word pizza, right? So people like myself, a small group of us, went through all of these emails and we flagged all of the emails that had code words in them. And some of the code words were other food words like walnut sauce or hot dogs. And we looked through all of them. And number one, like I said, they were written in a context that does not apply to the context of food. So I'll give you one example. Tony Podesta wrote to his brother, John Podesta, that he was going to get pizza for an hour. And so this is one of many, many, many suspect emails. So it's all right, so what are they really talking about here? And, back then there was evidence online that pizza was a pedophile code word. I watched that evidence get scrubbed in real time in 2016 because I started digging the Podesta emails right when they came out. So after I realized, okay, they're using known pedophile code words in their emails, and by the way, those were authenticated, and John Podesta, Hillary Clinton, none of them have denied that those were those emails that were released, right? Okay. So after I looked at these emails and saw that they were using pedophile code words, then I started researching all the people, that were in those emails, like Tony Podesta. So it's like, who is this guy? Oh, okay, it's John Podesta's brother. Well, what's he all about? Start researching him. And I find all these pieces talking about his art collection and what his house looks like. And, does a lobbying firm. Like, oh, okay, let me look at his art. Go to look at his art. And he's like, blatant pedophile art all over his home, like literally paintings depicting children being raped, like children that are half naked. He has cannibalism art. He has a statue, or had a statue in his home depicting one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims decapitated, like a gold statue, like the creepiest crap you've ever seen. So it's like, you read the emails and you see that they're using known pedophile code words, and then you look at their art and they're obsessed with art that glorifies child rape. And then you look deeper, and the other associates, like one of my favorites is Tamara Lozado. And she was, I believe, a chief of staff for Hillary Clinton when she was either a senator or the secretary of, was she a senator? No, secretary of state. And she was in some of those emails, and she used to have a website called Evie's Crib that was password protected. And I got all the screenshots of it. It's not active anymore, but it was password protected. And this website had all of the markers for being a child porn website. And on the very top of the website, it said that you could view infants raw and uncut. And in one of the emails that she was in, she was talking about providing children, and she cited 3 children and their names, to a pool party that John Podesta was going to be at for quote unquote entertainment. And so again, there's like hundreds of emails that are totally suspect. They make no sense, doesn't add up. And the only way they make sense is if the code words are indeed pedophile code words. And there's been some people that say, oh, I believe that the pizza code words were drugs. And it's like, no, it doesn't make sense in that context, because if you're going to get drugs, you don't get drugs for an hour. Mm-hmm. You get a service for an hour, limit, right? Yeah. So I went down this rabbit hole and I started exposing it. And at the time, I knew that the media was corrupt. I just didn't know the entire media was corrupt and compromised. And so when I started talking about Pizzagate, it was like all of a sudden I started having problems. And, I was working for multiple publications at the time, and I was told that I couldn't report on Pizzagate. And so then what I did is I tried to get some articles in just exposing sex trafficking in general, not mentioning the word Pizzagate. And I did one article for Town Hall, I believe it was in early 2017, where I just talked about how President Trump gave a press conference and said that he was going to combat child sex trafficking like no other president ever has in history, or no other administration has. And then he started doing it right out of the gates. So I did a story on that. And the next thing I know, Town Hall no longer wants to pay me. And basically was asking me to work for free, but then they wouldn't publish any more of my sex trafficking stories. So I basically got fired. And then I was working for another publication, and they blatantly just told me, you're not allowed to cover sex trafficking. And so, it wasn't just Pizzagate. I wasn't allowed to cover sex trafficking at all. That's how bad it was. And so at that point, I was like, I don't even want to be a part of the mainstream media anymore. Like, this is sick.
That's crazy.
Yes. But how do you get fired? They just tell you, hey, we're just like, they don't do it. Like, they don't do it in a normal way. They tell you, they just stop, they bench you, or they stop paying you.
Exactly.
Or they say that it's no longer in the budget, which I shouldn't say to the staff here because I technically employ people here, but it's like the nice way. You go, hey, it's just not in our budget this month. And it means you're fired. You should just know you should just leave.
Yeah.
But it's a nice way of terminating someone when you go, hey, I know it's not really your fault, but somebody told me we got to let you go.
That's basically what happened to me. It was actually Katie Pavlich that sent me the email.
Katie Pavlich? Really?
Hi, Katie. Oh yeah. So
oh man.
I will say that, to be nice, I don't feel it was her decision, right? I believe
Probably
she was
not.
at the time. So, the story went viral. It did. All my stories went very well. There was nothing inaccurate with the story, and no one's ever complained about, what was in the story. But, I got the vibe that, someone got the call and was like, you got to get rid of Liz. And then I had it happen again for another publication I was working with. And it was a story I did on Set the Rich, or there was multiple stories I did on Set the Rich, which is tied to Pizzagate, because I firmly believe that he is the person that leaked the Podesta emails to WikiLeaks, and Julian Assange has strongly insinuated that. And I believe that's also why he was murdered, and he was murdered. So I was doing some stories on Seth Rich that went viral, and they were, exposing the truth about what happened to him and how basically the police did not even investigate his murder. And there was just so many shitty things surrounding that. And the next thing I know, I get a call from the publication I'm working for. And again, like, there was no issues with my story. There was nothing inaccurate. And then all of a sudden, I get a phone call from one of the editors, and it's like a creepy, cryptic phone call. And the editor basically is just like, you can no longer work here. We can't tell you why. Like, never call us again. And I'm just like, what? Like, and then you're like, what? It's like, and then it's like, oh, they got the call too. Okay, I guess I'm fired again. So.
Well, yeah, you were being anti-Semitic, apparently, right?
Yeah.
That's why you
I wasn't called anti-Semitic. I was not called anti-Semitic in this case. No, it was just creepy phone calls or emails, and it was weird. It was really weird. And at that point, I just was like, forget it. I'm just done with any media organization at this point, because.
But now you're back though, and you're back in the media,
yes.
and you're always welcome to come on the show whenever you'd like
thank you.
to. That's what people don't know. If you're new to the show and you haven't liked the show, the reason why we started Rift a little while ago and we're running this now is because my background is in mainstream media. If you're new here for the first time, welcome. We appreciate you being here. Usually it's Mike's job. He's like, welcome. Make sure you guys like the video. But I come from the mainstream media myself. I just met a streamer or whatever at the riots, and she's like, oh, she followed me, and she's like, oh, all these streamers and people, I thought you were like an AP news guy. And I was like, no, I know you think that because we're like reporting, but no, we're actually like YouTubers. And, we know how the industry works, but we also know that a part of the good industry is that, you have high production quality, you have good guests, you have good budgets. But the bad part is that someone writes one hit article on you, and all of a sudden the people get spooked and they start like melting like a witch from Wizard of Oz that had water thrown on them. It's like, hey, why? I always say this with the right. The right gives the left power by acknowledging their hit pieces on their own people, but it's not by accident. It's because the right really wants to do one thing, which is support the state of Israel, and everything else is manufactured to pretend they care about anything else, but it's really a front for the Zionist military-industrial complex, and then they let us write about other things. But the moment you get in the way of that, their wars and what they want you out. Anytime you start questioning anything that could hurt advertisers, they don't like that either. They care about money, and they have, like Tucker. Tucker was telling the truth about Ukraine, but he says it was because he was questioning the Ukrainian war, so they got him fired. That's what I said. It's the Zionist military-industrial complex, which is a combination of the American military interventionist complex and Zionism, which are now combined into one universal goal across the world to show strength and might and create this new liberal democratic utopia that they believe is going to, spread across the world. Two different end goals, but one same vision of how we're going to get there, which is strength through peace, right? That's the new way of saying, we have to have peace by using military interventions. However, I will say at Rift here, that's the whole point, is we're like, hey, we don't need to be an island. Like, everyone that ends up being fringe or kicked out ends up just becoming like a neo-Nazi, or like ends up just getting mad. And it's like, we can still just run our own mainstream network. We can get investors. We can, go to the conferences still. Fox was just using our footage and our work and did some licensing stuff. We work with a bunch of other mainstream publications. We're producing shows out of the White House now. Our new show starts. We got a guy with White House credentials. Like, we're not going to be fringe, but we're not going to let people who question pedophile rings or Zionist power, they're not going to get pushed out. You are welcome here. So we appreciate you guys supporting us as we're on this mission. So please follow the new YouTube channel, subscribe on Rumble. It's brand new, but we thank you guys for supporting. Anyway, I want to keep on this topic, but I do want to bring up one story here I think is important. We're going to get back to some of that stuff with getting fired and the pedophile stuff. However, speaking of weird things that are going on, New York, this is very weird. New York City just gave a poll, and reflects the changing nature of America. You know, there was a time where basically suggesting that bombing Muslims might be a bad idea in the Middle East after World War I, suggesting that maybe this was an inside job, could get you kicked off the internet. You know, the famous rift between Alex Jones and Glenn Beck happened because Alex Jones and Gary Franchi of the Next News Network were saying that it was an inside job after Alex Jones predicted that Osama bin Laden would be blamed. They would fly, you saw that, right? He would fly planes into the Twin Towers. He predicted that. And because he was following the New World Order from the Bush Senior on through Clinton. He knew what was going on. This stuff, back then, I guess we kind of see like, how did you know this? And now the more you get into it, you realize they tell you what they're doing. Yeah. So it becomes less difficult, but maybe we just didn't know that. You know, the reason why I didn't know in 2001 is because I was like 8. People always ask me, why didn't you speak out against the war? I'm like, brother, I was looking for a fruit snack, you know? But New York, we went from having being anti-Islamic, we hate Muslims, we got to bomb them, to now a New York City poll just came out. For the first time, Mamdani leads Cuomo in the RCV final round. This is for the mayor. Zohran Mamdani, which I'm using Laura Loomer's research, so I don't know if this is true, but he's Muslim. Is that true?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe so.
That's what she said.
Muslim or Indian?
I thought he was Indian, but he
so
could
too.
be Pakistani, maybe.
True.
Let me know in the chats, one, if he's actually Islamic or not. But so Mamdani has 61, according to this, the majority of white people want to vote for him and black people. That's kind of crazy. Even Asian.
Black people want Cuomo.
Oh, sorry. Black people want Cuomo. Yep. My bad. White people and Asians, sorry. Black and Hispanic want Cuomo. But he's got a 6-point lead right there at the top. Also with men, he's also leading, and Cuomo is winning with women. And then with college educated, they want him. And then in no college, they want Cuomo. And when it comes to young people, 18 to 49, it's a pretty statistically large lead there, right? It's like 2/3 of young people want Mamdani to win. And that's so sad that so few young people vote that they've now made the bracket 18 to 49. It's not even like 18 to 35, it's just 18 to 49. I want to talk about this for a second, the changing politics and the shift in America. Part of the reason why I think people get away with things is because there's no accountability in our country. No one cares anymore. And if you oppose anything, they'll just call you a name, anti-Semite, Islamophobic, whatever. I feel like I'm still not really into this Islamic thing. I don't really think Islam has a place in the West. I don't feel like there's a genuine, I don't think it's compatible. I don't like this.
Well, what they're doing, when it's the same play. So when you look at the people that attack you for, like, specifically in my case, people that attack me for exposing Epstein's connection to Israel and Mossad, and they say, oh, you're anti-Semitic. And I will say, I haven't been getting it that much recently. I have gotten it, though, before. But I also been accused of being Jewish, so it's like, it depends on the day, I guess. But, it's a Saul Alinsky tactic, right? It's like, just demonize the person, deflect, just get them away from talking about this topic, And I got to say, anyone that has a problem with me or anyone exposing child rape with any religion or any country or whatever, like, I want to know what's in your closet. Mm-hmm. Like, are you on the Epstein tapes? Like, who's controlling you? Like, who's paying you? Like what is your agenda? But, I was in my 20s, my early 20s, I think I was 21 when 9/11 happened. And it was the same thing back then. So after 9/11, I researched the Quran and Islam because I wanted to understand this religion, right? And I remember ordering a ton of books on Islam, and including the Quran, the actual Quran. And it was like, oh, like this religion of so-called peace, like that the media is like basically saying it's the religion of peace. And if you question it, or if you point out something that like it does not, align with the narrative they're pushing, then you're Islamophobic, right? Yep. And like their prophet Muhammad is a literal pedophile. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this religion of peace is so peaceful that they promote and enable child rape. We can like have a long talk about that, but the point of me telling this is that like this is what happened right after 9/11. I remember I would like back then Facebook was starting to become a thing, and I would be like, hey, like, you know, like I'm not saying everyone in this religion like promotes this or supports this, but like there's a huge pedophile problem in this religion. And I would start with their prophet, Muhammad, right? And it's like people would just attack me and they'd get unhinged the same way some people get when you point out, you know, Israel's problem with Jeffrey Epstein elite pedophile networks, right? It's the same play, and they've been using it forever. When I say they, I'm talking about the deep state satanic cabal, because it's not just one country, it's not just one religion. This is a cabal that's comprised of multiple people globally, and they would be people that would be involved in Jeffrey Epstein's ring or similar rings or Diddy's or whatever, and they do control the media. But it's like this. It's like the same thing that they were doing after 9/11 with Islam. You know, now they're doing it with Israel. It's just the tactics never change.
It's like you said at the beginning of the show, they're really good at shifting the goalposts, which is impressive because they're so heavy. Like, you would think it'd be harder to move them, but it seems like every time someone on the woke right, as James Lindsay says, does something, well, that's not actually right. We're just going to move the goalposts. There's actually not a war. It's actually Islamophobia, actually anti-Semitism now. Frankly, when it comes to the mayoral race, I really don't like either of them. Like New York's options, terrible. I feel terrible. Like I feel bad for the people living in New York. I'm sorry that this is the best that you guys had. I mean,
Zoran does have a rap music video.
He does.
I'll bring it up.
He has the rap music video.
He has a rap video? Yeah, let me see. I bring it up.
I remember the video you played last week, his campaign ad where he said everything in, I think it was Pakistani, whatever language.
Apparently he wants to turn the city hall into Islam. We don't have a link to that, but apparently he said that.
Yeah.
Do you have a link to that? Do we know that? It's not in the document, but it says that. He said that. So I believe it. Because if it's in the document, it's true. This is the guy we're talking about, by the way. For you. Give a crime to you. Bow down for you. Hit the ground for you. Make a sound for you. Go ahead, make a rap for you, naughty. It's a rap. Get the guap, spin the rack on your naughty. Spin the rack. Come through, give a dab to your naughty. If you really feeling good, spin a track for you, naughty. Go ahead, make a rap for your naughty. It's a rap. Get the guap, spin the rack on your naughty. Spin the rack. Come through, give a dab to your naughty. If you really feeling good, spin a track for your naughty.
Oh man, I hated every second of that.
Was that an ad for? Because I'm gonna be hungry.
I know. I will say shawarma
for gyros
goes good.
Okay,
shawarma does.
Except you don't want a shawarma on every corner. That's what Australia's like. Yeah. Do you ever want foreign food? It was like, is that all you want? By the way, that British anchor from BBC, that terrible one, like Jahari or whatever her name is, it's like always complaining about too many white people in Britain. She actually put up a post, unironically, yesterday while she's traveling in Sicily and complained that there was no other options than Italian food in Sicily, and she was really mad about it, and that she wanted like some curry. And I was like, the audacity to go to Sicily and be mad that there's Sicilian food there is actually diabolical and shows you how entitled these pricks have become. But also, you know, New York has been always diverse in terms of like, there's been a lot of different European nations that were there, right? A lot of European representation. And post 1965, there's been, you know, we of course had Chinese other groups that were there before, but every nation is there now. I think they said there's about like 109. No, that's the wrong number. Some sort of amount of countries that are there. And I think there's like 160 languages spoken in New York, something like wild in the schools. I'm gonna be off a little bit, but I was listening to the mayoral race. To me, it just shows you how lost the city is, though. That it's like we have a guy who wants to, you know, he said he wants to get rid of the police in high crime areas. I don't know if you saw that. Mm-hmm. He wants to.
This candidate does?
Yeah, he wants to nationalize. This is what I want to talk about.
He wants to have social workers be there instead.
Yeah, we have that. Let me see. We have it here.
You know what? I will say, to his credit, the one thing he's doing incredibly well is walking the streets and actually meeting the people, his constituents. That's why he's winning. I don't know if you saw, but there was a video, you could find it. It was on his page. I saw it a couple hours ago, where he was walking up and down the street. No, you know, big security or whatever. He was just walking up. Anyone who said, hey, we love you, he'd walk up, shake their hand, and be like, oh, thanks for the support. Like, he was doing what politicians used to do, and it makes people feel valued. And so he can have these crazy ideas of, well, we're going to remove the schools and we're going to have public grocery stores where the government funds it. Did you see that?
Yeah, I have all those clips.
We
Listen to
have
this.
that as
Check this
well.
out. Here's him saying he's going to remove the police. I just want to remind you how radical the world is. Everyone's like, we defeated woke. We won. And you're like, actually, it's getting pretty bad. It's actually getting worse in a lot of cities. I don't know why. That's the whole joke about like, we won, we did it, we defeated Iran. It's all fixed. Listen to this. Believe it or not, look at this. This is American. Like, isn't that crazy? This is like what America looks like. It is diabolical. Like, this is not Al Jazeera. Look at this.
So, are you? Do you think that we have to almost do without policing in certain areas, which are labeled to be high crimes, to have alternative bodies? Do the policing in a more compassionate, more merciful, more social, assisting and helping more than arresting and putting in jail?
I absolutely think that what we need to do is give support and funding to institutions that are trained to deal with these kinds of issues. As you said, if you're having an argument with someone and there's a risk of it escalating, who is better positioned to de-escalate it? Someone who is well known in the community, or someone who has been trained specifically in de-escalation, or a stranger who has a gun. And we see so many situations where encounters with police, the police arrive and all of a sudden the tension rises even astronomically to what it was prior. Right. And I think that we need to say and ask ourselves, look at how policing is done in the suburbs, in wealthier, whiter America. When people make mistakes, the answer is not to throw them in jail.
No.
What is he talking about?
That's crazy.
I had police pull a gun on me one time because my windows were too tinted in a suburban area. They literally came to my car with the gun out.
Well, historically speaking, suburban moms in their minivans aren't as likely as other groups of people to lunge at police officers wielding weapons. So maybe that's the problem that we should be addressing. Maybe stop diving at the
some
cops
races are more
with a
prone
gun.
towards violence statistically.
Well, if anti-Semitism is in your DNA, maybe other races have certain things in their DNA, like liking watermelon and chicken.
Dude, well, maybe committing.
Oh no!
Oh man. Oh brother.
Horrible.
Who doesn't like watermelon and chicken?
That's fair.
To be completely
I
honest.
don't like
love some
watermelon,
good chicken.
actually.
Oh, well, some people do.
Wait, okay. Oh my God, it's just so bad. Okay, let me ask you a question. That video, did he give that interview? Did he give that interview as a mayoral candidate, or was that during his rap era?
Yeah.
So he gave that interview as a candidate?
Yeah, it was recent.
Oh God. Okay, then I don't even know what to
But
say.
even worse than that, here's him talking about implementing government-owned grocery stores. Check this out. This is actually crazy too. Watch this.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zahran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices.
Isn't that crazy? Like city-owned, government-owned grocery stores. Have you ever been to like Utah where they have like government-owned like liquor stores? You ever been there?
Yeah, I have actually. I had to go there for a bunch of different stories over the years. It's crazy. And I actually saw a video today showing that some stores in New York City, you have to actually pay to get in them to buy like food and just like a soda or whatever. Have you guys heard of that? Like someone posted a video today that was going viral, and like some stores in New York, just convenience
Yeah,
stores.
you have to swipe to pay in order to go in.
Yeah, just
I've
to go,
seen that.
wait,
yeah.
so that's real?
Yeah, the Montana man.
I've seen a few
that's
videos
what
of
it
that.
was.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that a thing now in New York?
Well, he's
to
from
get in?
Montana. They have a high trust society over there. So he goes to New York, and yeah, it was basically like you have to scan your credit card to get into the store.
Well, that's actually common at like
Before.
when you go to sports arenas now. I don't know if you know about this, but
Yeah.
they have instead of like hiring really highly skilled people who roll their eyes at you and get mad at, which happened to me by the way at a KFC on the way up to Bohemian Grove. Literally, the woman was standing there, and I go, "Can I order, please?" And she looks at me, and she goes, And I like looked at her. You know, she was one of those really educated scholars that they brought in. You know, one of the Harvard grads.
Yes.
And then I was like sitting there, and she's just going, chewing gum, and like she has her nails. She's looking at them, and she's like, "This is not exaggeration." The guy in front of me was like, literally goes, "This is why." He goes, "This is why they're gonna put AI in like kiosks." And I go, "Can I order this?" She goes, and I was like, and she's like, to the other people in the back, she literally says it. She goes, "Order at the kiosk." Like she's mad that people were ordering from her.
How dare you get in line and make her do her
Yes,
job?
like how dare you?
Oh my gosh.
Obviously she was eating all the KFC. She was like 100 pounds overweight, or as we like to call them.
Oh no.
That's crazy. The average weight of the scholars is pretty heavy, but I will say it was like actually diabolical. Anyway, I call that fatigue. But that being said, because of that problem at arenas, they were having high theft in the mini marts and stuff. People were stealing stuff. So now before you go at a lot of arenas, including down in Miami, you also in Wisconsin at the RNC, you have to scan your credit card before you go into any place. And then when you leave, it automatically tracks your ID. I think it's facial scanning, and it just charges you as you leave. And you don't even have to scan to avoid theft. And that's a low trust society. So you can't even buy anything without scanning a credit card, and it's cashless too. So if you have, and then what was crazy, there's a machine next to the mini mart.
So if you have just cash, then you can't get in.
Well, this is a difference. There's now machines in the places that you can convert your cash to disposable Visa cards. So now you put your cash in to get a Visa card.
Oh my goodness.
Not get cash out from a Visa card.
How much do they charge you?
I think it's like $3.25 for like the fake card.
So like
It's
a
like
Starbucks
reverse.
coffee just to walk inside.
No, not to walk in. The card is scanned when you walk through, and then whatever you say, you grab a bag of chips and a drink, it would
Just
be
knows it.
$8. You walk out,
Okay.
it scans it as you leave and charges that $8 to your card.
Okay, so it's not
No,
you're
so
not
you have
charged
to pay for the
anything.
card though. If you have cash,
If you don't, yeah.
you have to charge. Like, so people are converting their cash to cards.
But that seems more of a to prevent. There's so much theft,
Yes.
right? Because
So it's you have to prove that you
like
have a card
Democratic
with money on
politicians have
it.
encouraged that in
just need
California.
more
People
social
are literally
workers.
allowed. Yeah, the social workers will
Social
solve all the
workers would
problems.
have solved it all.
Someone said EGOT mogged by Shaniqua. That's actually true.
Her name was
find-
Letitia.
I think it was actually something like that, honestly. Real fast, I want to read a couple super chats here. I Am Whiskey Tango Fox gets an air horn here. Said, Liz, I appreciate your work. I was sick to my stomach on the reporting of Tamara Lozado. She has a very desolate, painful place in hell waiting for her.
Yes, she does.
Demons are real and they walk among us. What is that? Explain that.
Yeah, that was the email I was talking about. So one of the woman that sent an email about the Kids for Entertainment at John Podesta's pool party, she's the one that had the password protected website where people could view, according to the website, children raw and uncut, and it had all these markers for being a child
She's
porn
not
website.
the Frazzle thing, right? With
No, that's okay. That's a whole other thing. Do you want me to get into it or?
up to him.
Well, yeah, we'll get into it in a
That's
second. Let me read a
Okay.
couple of these.
But
Is that pretty detailed?
that was
very detailed.
allegedly or something like that. Maybe not exactly what that was because I still can't find the source of like who created that term or anything like that.
Can we see
So I
that for the
kinda-
overtime segment on the locals? We'll have an overtime segment on
Okay.
the locals that I think we'll hit that because I don't even know what that is. And I'm
Oh, really?
yeah, so I want to hear this.
It's tied, but that stuff allegedly came from Anthony Weiner's laptop. But
Okay,
you know,
well,
it all
yeah,
links
it's
together.
we're
of
gonna
a
get into
theory,
that then.
yeah.
All right, let me read this other one. Zesty Aid said $20. Get some confetti. Said Usama Dadik discovering the truth about Islam. I'd recommend checking him out. USAMA DAK. I'd recommend checking him out. His father lived in Egypt, faced prosecution for being a Christian pastor. Perhaps a guest down the line. Yeah, always send emails if you have guests to mike.mendoza@rifftv.com. Also, because we have a professional guest here, usually we get a little unprofessional with the $50 super chats, but we're going to do Liz a favor for her reputation and not
I don't have anything to take off.
Yeah, we don't.
Like,
well,
I have this
you
shirt.
could go shirtless,
I
but
could-
Liz
You
is
guys
here.
take your shirts off.
If someone gets $50,
Please don't let me stop you.
Yeah, it's all right.
Don't tempt me. This is
Are you
my
gonna
whole
do it?
thing.
Are you gonna do it?
You want me to take my shirt
Yes,
off?
we got to take a piece of clothing off for the.
I can do it
thing.
for the remainder of the show. I can
Yeah,
take it
yeah.
off. Take it off and get a flex.
Yeah, here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
He's gonna take a shirt
$50 from Homer
Shirt
J.
off.
Fuentes. Put the
It's
music
Homer.
going, please.
Homer just likes
Homer
Wait,
J.
someone's
Fuentes.
asking
Homer
for you to
just
take your
likes
shirt
me.
off.
Yeah.
And they're
Yes.
gonna pay $50.
Yes, here we
But
go.
the money doesn't even go to me.
Here we
This is
go,
absurd.
ladies and gentlemen.
Good. Oh my god!
All right, ladies.
All right, now we're done. Now we're done.
Why is this not the first time in a week I've had to narrate
What
a
is
man
happening?
taking his clothes off?
I don't know.
This is
They
good.
were just in Orlando. That's like common stance over there.
Why did you just write me on a note? Please continue
say no.
as long as you. What
Yeah,
is this
that's
note?
what I
Please
wrote
keep
you.
this extension going. I also can't sit up. I can't stand up right now. What the heck?
That's
Oh,
it.
Michael.
You got me.
Come
got
on,
me.
man.
There's more talk about Israel, but
My-
yeah.
no,
Oh my God.
I was going to throw the Qatari money at you.
Do you know what? By the way, not a joke though. The guy that just got fired from like X, that was like basically for saying how bad the DMs worked. You saw it? He said like you can't even like have your messages show up or look at pictures. Do you not see this? He got fired from Elon, and I was laughing because he was like exposing him. He's like, dude, your website sucks so badly. You never listen to me. You can't even like open up images on Windows when you go into like the DMs. You can't even like look at pictures. Your whole website's broken. That's like our biggest problem is we can't do that. Is this what you sent right here?
Yeah, it was just something I was reading to share with you.
Okay, that's what it said. Okay, right the way. AF posted the ceasefire between Iran and Israel may be voided as Israel is using the final 30 minutes before it takes effect to assassinate Iranian leadership and rain fire down on Tehran. If the attacks do not stop by 3:30 a.m. Tel Aviv time, Israel will have already violated the ceasefire.
Oh my God. I don't know. I don't believe
So in
that.
other words, nothing ever happens.
That was a good A. By the way, Homer J. Funes, good job on that one. You got the shirt off. That's the first shirt that's been fully removed. I'll do it too one time. I used to do it back when I would get drunk on the show. I would do it voluntarily. If they sent $100, it was like it was off.
See, I'm fully
for the
sober.
whole show.
I want like a couple bucks of that donation, I think.
You can,
Yeah.
you
That's
can.
valid.
You're
You got
a,
your boobs to dance.
he's
so
on
I
payroll.
think you
He's
earned
on
it.
payroll now.
How do
He's
you
on
get your
payroll.
boobs to dance?
It's
She's
just-
interested.
Yeah,
It's
she's
just
just
a
a
practice
Show it
thing.
again.
We just
Show
sit
it
here and
again.
It's like the Rock in what's that movie? The Journey to the Center of the Earth, when they're like throwing berries at him. He's just like pop. He's like doing the.
I like this great message said, why is the show always so gay coded and unnecessarily sexual? Oh, taking a shirt off is sexual now? You go to the beach? You think it's sexual? Okay.
Wow.
Well, you have a problem. You need to come to Christ. You need to go to confession. Thank you very much. And someone said, yo, Hennessy, chill, bro. All right. Iron Cow 86 also said, so it didn't record the part after password protected website where people could. Okay. I don't. Oh, I guess that was part of the thing.
View children raw and uncut.
That's just
That's what it
so
said on the
sad.
site. And I just so you know, I have the screen grabs and I've
wow.
documented all of it. So
We will. But by the way, Homer J. Funes said diabolical. Also, one more super chat here said, did you hear Lucas Gage's new song Boom Boom Tel Aviv on Spotify? No. Maybe we'll play it in the overtime segment. I didn't. It sounds like something we'd have to play in the overtime segment. Oh my gosh.
Oh no. Yeah.
what?
We don't even know. We don't have a code for this. $100 super chat from Don Daniel. Let's get.
Horns, cheers, confetti, everything.
We can't just keep. I
What?
can't.
What
I
is he
can't go
asking
through another
for?
lawsuit. So I can't remove clothes today. But he sent $100. Don, we actually owe you something for this. He said, I love you guys. Thanks for being the gayest podcast. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate it. We got to keep it a little fun. You know what I
I
mean?
thought he was going to ask for me to take my shirt off.
Man, here we go.
I'm like, why are you guys blushing right now? What's happening?
The whole. I'm like, please don't sue me. No, but the whole show is just us like taking our clothes off. It's like no. But the person that doesn't understand the humor, by the way, because this is like multiple shows put together, and there was actually the show I used to have that was when I first started Nightly Offensive. You could like pay like $40 to have like music go off. And it would like automatically trigger. It was like we set it up through software, but then it ended up being so problematic because like started raising so much money, but you couldn't get through the podcast without having to dance to music. And then like, so then I upped it and said like, okay, we'll strip then, thinking no one would do it. Like, yeah, I sent $100. I'll just take an article of clothing.
Yeah.
Up. But then like people started just saying hundreds of dollars to the point to like where I was like literally nude on screen, but you couldn't see. But it was like, and then it was like I couldn't get up, and then it was like very confusing. I was like had to like go pee, and I was drunk, and I was like, okay, this is just getting insane. I didn't mean it to be sensual. I just wanted to like have some fun and like challenge people to give money. And then we changed it that you could pay to make us take shots. And then people gave so much money that we would just finish like 2 or 3 bottles of like liquor, and the people were throwing up on camera. It became so out of control.
No way.
But we made so much damn money during that time. Thank you guys. I was able to like move to Australia and everything, and, like move back.
When
so
was
I appreciate
this?
you guys in 2022. It was
Sounds like a good time.
it was a hell of a good time.
The crazy thing is, I did that completely sober. I don't even drink.
Oh man, we thank you guys. Someone said, "Is that Nancy Mace? Put your clothes on." Called you the Nancy Mace of podcast hosts. Oh, you guys are so weird. A lot of you guys' comments are so weird too. Everyone's like, I love how some people actually think it's funny. Someone's like, sex sells, baby. Plug Van Man.
Well, that's
All
true
right.
though.
Just lather yourself in oil. Hey, $1,000, Elijah, oils up.
I hope you don't feel too uncomfortable here, because if you don't feel a little uncomfortable on this podcast, you didn't make it through the right podcast, because it always gets a little weird at the end, or a lot weird. Someone else said $100. Never mind. I'm not even gonna say. Anyway. Sorry. We'll leave it at that.
Oh, no.
But actually, this weekend was probably the gayest thing I've ever participated in. We went to Bohemian Grove. Did you
really go to Bohemian Grove?
It was Brohemian Grove.
Not Bohemian
Wait,
Grove.
what?
It's
I'm
not
like, oh
Bohemian,
god,
not
not
really.
another one.
And no, it was Bohemian
Like,
Grove, and like
totally
Wait,
different.
what the hell is bro?
it's an event by the what is it called? The what gang?
Well, it's Tower Gang / Nephilim Death Squad, but technically Nephilim Death Squad. Yeah.
Yeah, Nephilim Death Squad.
They're
And I
podcasters.
went there, and they were like, they're podcasters, and they were like, hey, could you narrate a bodybuilding competition? So I have my phone ready for like the poses. Like, can you be the announcer and like tell them to like make the poses, and then they're gonna judge like who's the better bodybuilder. Well, like I don't know how to make this make sense without sounding really, really gay, but like this virgin guy named Toad, who's like 5'1" and fat, and also just got fired for saying the N-word and Hail Hitler on a podcast, who's not anti-Semitic, but this makes no sense, comes on stage in a GIMP mask with the mouth opened, and then the guys come on stage bodybuilding in with baby oil all over them, and then I'm up
Are
there
you
with
sure it wasn't a Diddy party?
Look at this.
There it is.
So then he had to judge them based on feeling their bodies. And now I'm
I'm
stuck
glad I
on.
missed
I'm
this.
sitting on stage.
Where was this? Miami?
No, this is actually This is
Even
where was
worse,
this?
the Villages.
The Villages, which is the STD capital.
This was at the Villages where all the old people live?
Is that
Yes.
you wearing the mask,
All the
rubbing them
old
with Van?
swingers?
That's Toad.
Oh, I thought that was you.
Yeah, and I'm in the corner there, sitting down, trying to stay out of the main camera shot.
That's terrible.
And I'm like trying to read it. I'm like, he's judging him by feeling them in a GIMP mask, and I'm going, back lat spread, and then you just have some 40-year-old
just
virgin
goes.
feeling up some people, and then some Arab being like, this is a good idea, and I was like, yeah. I'm like looking at it up there. I'm like, once again, this is one of those moments where you're like, how am I on the stage here? And I'm just like hiding in the corner, trying to announce on the side, and I'm just like, this is. I'll never forget him for that.
Bohemian Grove could have been the first clue.
Yeah, it does kind of now
It's
you
called-
say it that
At
way.
least they were adults, right? That's,
Yeah.
As long as hopefully there was no children involved. So
no,
But
the
that-
Villages, the average
Villages
age is like
sounds
65
wild.
and up.
I want to go there and do like an investigative piece on
Oh, they're
this.
wild in the village.
I heard that. I can't
They have
believe
like
it.
the highest STD rate or something. Like
Oh,
it's
the
so
old
it's,
crazy.
people-
all old swingers, right?
The
Yeah.
old people get down.
Yeah.
The funny thing is they have trouble getting
Mike, you
it
visit
up,
there all the
but-
time, don't you?
I do, yeah.
But be careful. It's to visit people he knows, not. That's like the contact. It's like he always comes back and he's got to get a blood test, and he's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, it's
just-
because the heat stroke, you know,
Proximity.
the
Yes.
proximity." No, actually, dude, this is not a joke. So we go to stay at the nicest hotel in the area, which is like a Spring Hill Suite. So you know what kind of area you're in, right? And I go downstairs and like we're like, all right, we got to go, you know. And obviously, once I saw what I was being a part of, if you didn't take a few shots of vodka before, you're not going to get through it. But I was like, all right,
Clearly.
let's go. We got to get through this. And I go downstairs. I'm like, what kind of alcohol do you guys have down here? They just had white wine and just had 2 kinds of Chardonnay. You know, you're around old motherfucking bitches when you only have white wine available and it's just Chardonnay. I don't know about you, but like, I think Chardonnay is actually kind of gross. I don't think it's good. I like Sauvignon Blanc. Pinot Grigio is good, but like Chardonnay is like not very good. And the fact that that's all they had in 2, you know that the average age of the person there is like 75 or older, because only 75-year-old women drink Chardonnay. That's my opinion.
But they did have baby oil, so give them some credit.
Well, to be fair, the old people need it.
Dude, well, can I actually wonder. I actually
I don't
want
want that visual. I don't want that visual.
But by the way, it was a great event. It was like Sam Tripoli, Owen Benjamin, Jake
Owen.
Shields. It was like it was like actually an actual event. I just didn't know that it was like you know,
Like
I didn't know it was gonna
a
be
strip
that
show.
I didn't know it was gonna be like the bro was gonna be like me sitting there just going, bro. Like, anyway, so I don't blame myself. I'm never admitting that I drank too much because I wouldn't say that I drank. But let me just say, after that moment, I was definitely
You got
cashing in
hammered.
my tickets.
You were Operation Midnight Hammer.
Yeah, I was like, I cashed in my tickets, and all I know is Jake Shields was like, "Do you want to talk about Iran and the Jews?" And I was like, "Brother, not now, not in this state, or we're gonna get ourselves
Do you want to
decapitated."
talk about Iran? Was he trying to do a live with you?
He was like, "Let's record right now,
Oh,
brother.
God.
Let's talk about the Jews." And I was like, "Dude,
You're like, please turn your phone off.
I'm at least smart." I was like, "No pictures, no videos.
Yeah.
We're not doing this, buddy." I also found out that Owen Benjamin's like 6'8".
Really?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
He's like this much taller than me.
Oh wow.
Did you not see this picture? Look at this real fast.
Shorter dude.
With you
Yeah,
and
me
Jake?
too. Like I actually look like a midget compared to him. Let me go here to this. I look like here it is. Look at him. He had to lean back
Oh my
and put his
gosh.
legs out
Wow.
just to like be at our height. And I'm 6'2", but like
Oh,
that's,
that's wild.
yeah. And so he had to be the shortest of us. But you can see like his legs are out like
He's
several
still almost
feet.
taller than Jake.
Yeah.
Well, Jake is a lovely gentleman and he's a fighter. But
Say, the height doesn't matter for Jake.
I think
Yeah,
you're supposed to be a
still
little shorter in
deadly,
the
but
in the octagon, right? Am I wrong on that?
Huh?
He's MMA, right?
Isn't he MMA? Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
like,
MMA
it's
fighters.
He's also
What
supposed to
was
be
it?
super tall, right?
Well, and
certain
it depends.
divisions.
There's divisions, so it's based
Yeah.
off weight. So
Oh,
of
so
course,
it's weight.
so more people try to lose weight so you can be bigger in your division.
Okay, well that
Have
makes
more
sense.
reach and everything.
Yeah.
All right, someone said this quickly is becoming OnlyFans. All right, and someone else was asked if we got HIV there. No, I just felt like that's what it was. All right, anyways, we got to go over to the overtime section on locals only. We're going to talk a little bit. It's kind of a weird transition from from shirtlessness to everything, but everyone knows this show gets derailed in like the last 20 minutes of the show, and that's just how it works. We have our guests and our contributors. Everyone's gonna be on. We're gonna be talking about some stuff with Pizzagate that's probably too spicy and too hot for YouTube.
Are we allowed to say
You
certain
can say
words
whatever
over there?
you want, whatever you want. Go to ElijahSchaefer.locals.com. We're going to take about a 4-minute break real fast. We'll see you over there. Thank you guys for watching. But before we go over there, for those that are watching, because we have a few thousand that are watching here across everywhere, and we appreciate you guys. Liz, if you want to share with people how they can find you and follow you before we go over to locals.
Yes, you guys can follow me on X. I'm most active on X at Liz Crokin, LizCrokin, and my website where my documentaries, all my articles, a link to my Substack, my store, my videos, my shows. That would be lizcrokin.net, and then look for that article that I'll be posting tomorrow. And if you can, please share it because I feel it's a really important thing that happened in Israel, exposure that's happening that needs to be brought to bigger light. So.
Yeah, and go ahead, Braden.
All right. Yeah, Braden Sorbo, BraedenSorbo. There it is, right there at the bottom. On X, TikTok, Instagram, all of the social media platforms, sorbostudios.com for the book.
And Snowflake.
All right. You can find me at snowflake_news. I'm on Instagram as well as X. Love for you guys. Come check it out.
All right, and then those of you guys that are watching, you can also find me anywhere you want. Just go to ElijahSchaefer.locals.com. I'm throwing it in the chat. Don't forget, before we go, remember, I really actually do want to apologize again for the lack of the book club on Sunday. We are still doing it. My train got canceled. I'm not going to explain why, but I tried to bring a firearm onto a train and they didn't let me. So then they canceled my tickets and I had to get an Uber home from a poor Ukrainian girl who didn't realize that she accepted a 3.5 hour ride from Orlando down to Boca Raton, and then like literally almost cried when she realized she had to drive all the way back up. Anyway, thank you guys for supporting that. It was really dumb of me. I didn't even know I had a gun in my bag. That's how dumb I am. I didn't even know it was in my bag because that's just, yeah. I'm moving right now, so I stuffed everything away. It was in a case. It was all fine. But anyway, I appreciate you guys being around here, and follow us on Locals. It's free to join. In the future, it'll be members only. So in the future, it'll be like, you got to be a member to watch. But right now, it's free. It just sign up. You can go there, you can click, you can watch it, and you can give super chats. Shout out to my guests and my contributors. Shout out to Dan Janiel. In the future, I think with $100, you're going to make the Hall of Fame. So we're going to be printing out, and you're going to be on the wall in the studio with $100 super chatters. You have really good guests and also super chatters who will be around. I appreciate you guys. Thank you again for watching. We'll be here with the overtime segment on Locals only, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. on YouTube, X, and Rumble. We're taking a quick break, and we'll. Oh, great. And we'll see you in a moment. We'll be right back.